Hi, hello, welcome to our Gemara Shir, Maseches Psachim, getting ready for Pesach. So our Gemara Shir is designed in such a way that even if you missed yesterday's Shir, every Shir is a unit by itself. So of course we have to know the flow of the Sugya, but even if you're not with us yesterday, don't give up. You are still okay to join us now to the fascinating Sugya about regarding a chometz of a non-Jewish person in a Jewish person's house, which happens to everybody, by the way, because you sell your chometz to a goy. So then you have a goyish chometz in your house. So it's not so simple. Apparently, there are lots of details here. So let's see what's going on. This shir, like all my other shir, is in memory of my beloved father Menachem ben Akiva, and for this month also in memory of Shalom ben Tzvi Hirsch. Yep. And let's go for the success and release of all the hostages. We're in Maseches Psachim, Daf Vav Amud Aleph, going back to summarize what we saw yesterday to, clue everybody else in. The story is as follows. Yeah, let's just read from the Gemara and then we'll explain everything. Everything will be clear, Be'ezus Hashem. Yichad loy bais ein zokuk levoil, which means, what happens if a goy came to your house with his chometz, yeah, and he's asking you, can I place the chometz in your house? And you said yes. According to Rashi, you said yes, meaning put it wherever you want. And the goy chose one corner, and that corner or that room or that niche in your house is going to be designated for him keeping the chometz there. Similar to like renting him either for or with or without money. Yeah, renting or renting for free, just lending a piece of, of land, so to speak, yeah, a corner in your house for his chometz. Ein zokuk levoil. Then you, the Yid, the goy did that before Pesach, now Pesach is coming, and you have the goy chometz in your house, ein zokuk levoil. Why not? Shenemar lo imotze bebateichem, veha lav didehu. Yeah, it says in the Torah, the chometz should not be found in your houses. Ve'olav didehu. That corner in your house is not your corner. Why? The nochri, the goyish person, ki kame'ayil lebeisa, ki kame'ayil, when he brings in the chometz in and out, lebeisa denafshe kame'ayil. He brings it to his own house. Now, here we have a big machlokes rishonim as to how to explain this ma'aseh. According to Rashi, and let's actually, as I promised, I'm going to revise and remind everybody of the very, very clear, strict rule regarding goyish chometz, and then we'll see how it applies over here. The rule is as follows, as we saw many times. If you take responsibility, accountability, shmira, over the goy's chometz, either because you said, yes, I accept upon myself to be your shomer sacher, right? Or if that's a government rule, government law, as we saw before in the case of the soldiers, that you are forced by law to look after the chometz of the soldiers who come to your town, and if not, the government will make you pay if anything gets lost in your house. So either bahuk or bekruk, willingly or not, you are responsible. That says the Torah lo imotze, and in such a case, you're not allowed to have that chometz in your house. Because that chometz, since you're responsible for it financially, it's kind of connected to you also. That's bali motze, shouldn't have it in your house. However, if there's no responsibility, if you tell the guy, listen, put it over here, I'm not responsible. No, not taking responsibility. Then what? Then you can keep the chometz over there. Okay. Rashi explains, here comes a third factor. What? I gave the guy a corner in my house where he can put his chometz over there, with or without money, right? Now, says Rashi, that case is talking about a person who did not accept responsibility, right? And then the Gemara seems to be saying, he did not accept responsibility, and also that corner, as the Gemara just said now, belongs to the goy, not to me. It's his own place, therefore it's okay. There's a clear question on Rashi asked by the Rishonim. I will say it now, and then we'll continue the Gemara. The Ramban, Tosfos, many Rishonim claim against Rashi. What do you mean, Rashi? If I did not take responsibility, then even if it's in the middle of my dining room, it should be okay, right? It's there glaring in my face. I did not take responsibility, nothing to do with me. Therefore, why do you have to start talking to me about that corner of the house that's designated just for him? That's what the Rishonim ask on Rashi, many Rishonim. And therefore, most Rishonim argue on Rashi, Tosfos, Ritva, Ramban, and more, and they say no. We're talking here a much bigger Chiddush. That's a whopping Chiddush. Oh, you came just on time, Reb David, to the Chiddush of the Rishonim. They argue on Rashi, and they say, no, no, no. The only Chiddush here, and that's a big Chiddush, that if the Goy has a corner in your house separate for him for the Chometz, even if you did take responsibility, you're Patur. Why? Because it's his place. And if I took responsibility for a Goy's Chometz in the Goy's house, according to those Rishonim, it's fine because it's his place. If it's his place, even though I'm responsible for the chometz, but it's in his place, it's fine. Imagine yourself, you're a Jewish businessman, you own property in New York, yeah? That's not science fiction, right? And there's a guy in Manhattan, and you rent him, yeah, you rent the house for him. He lives there with his family. If he has a family, it's a big kiddush, whatever, right? He lives on the top floor over there, right? And he has chometz in his house. And the agreement is you have to look after his stuff, let's say. Yeah, property manager or your house sitter and whatever, all the whiskey that he has and all the cakes and cookies, you're supposed to be in charge of them. But it's his house. It's his house because it's rented out to him. Therefore, according to Tosfos and many Rishonim, it's absolutely fine. And I'm not going to tell him to take out his whiskey and his biscuits and his pizza from the house because Lemais, it's rented out to him. And it's considered to be his, the house, as we're saying right now, nafshei kame'ayel, and even if I'm responsible for it, it's okay because I'm not responsible for a chometz that's in my house. I'm responsible for a chometz that's in his rented apartment, even though it's owned by me but rented by him, and then it's okay. Rashi, as I said yesterday, here Rashi, which also has a lot of friends, the other group of Rishonim, I don't remember who, but there are people with Rashi. They say no. They say the other way around. They say this whole mice over here, the whole Gemara is talking when there is no responsibility. But if I'm responsible for his chometz, if his whiskey or biscuits or pizzas or dough are going to get lost, he'll come screaming at me that I should pay for it. Then, even though it's rented out to him, the place, the apartment, still I'm going to be chayiv and it's osur. And that's machlokes ad hayom hazeh, two opinions in the Mishnah Berurah. We'll continue the Gemara now. All will be well. And eventually, I hope today we'll get to Mishnah Berurah. It will happen one day. Let's just continue now. So basically, let's now follow the other Rishonim because it's more clear cut for now. So basically, the Gemara says, listen, if I told Tim McKenzie, hi, Tim, you want to put chometz in my house? Either you're doing him a favor because, you want to keep good neighborly, be a good neighbor, or he's paying you. Okay, put it in the corner over there. In 2 or 3 days time for now, we have the traditional Passover holiday. So, but you put it in that corner, and Tim says, I want you to be responsible for my hametz. And I'm saying, yes, I'll be responsible. According to Tosfos, it's okay. Why? Because when he goes to that room, to that corner in the house, in that cupboard, since it doesn't completely belong to him, but lenafshi kame'ayel, right now we're dealing with that. We're in the middle of that sugya. It's ke'ilu considered to be his, even though I'm responsible. It's still okay. Wow, that's an exception and a big chiddush to get vis-a-vis what we've seen till now. Correct the Gemara. Now we see what we saw yesterday, but in a new light, the light of Tosfos. Lemeimra, are you coming to tell me we are 5 lines before the end of the narrow lines? Daf Vav Amud Aleph Maseches Psachim Pesach Pesach Pesach. Lemeimra deschirus kanya. Are you telling me seriously that if a guy or anybody else rents out the house, lives in my house, and I rent out the house, and he's a tenant, it's considered to be his house just because he's a tenant, and therefore the chometz that's his is okay, even though I'm responsible? Yeah. That nan, look at the Mishnah at the end of first parak in Avodah Zarah. State over there in Avodah Zarah. Af b'mokim she'amru lehaskir, even in places where you're allowed to rent out Jewish property to goyim, because in Eretz Yisrael you're not supposed to. Again, this is a very fascinating issue of halacha. We're not going in there. Many people end up renting out houses to Arabs. It's a big shaila. There's a lot of discussions over there. Conceptually speaking, Mikra Din, in Eretz Yisrael, you cannot, definitely not to sell them houses, right? And not to lahaskir, not to rent out. In Syria and in Chutz La'aretz, Syria is like half Eretz Yisrael because it was conquered by David the Melech privately. David the Melech kibush yochid. David the Melech did his own his own Operation Dover the Melech, he privately, without asking the Sanhedrin, it was allowed, but it wasn't a national thing, yeah? He did it as his own gig, his own thing. He conquered Syria. There's a big shadow if Syria is like Eretz Yisrael or not. So in Syria and Kol Sheken in whatever, Canada, Brazil, Japan, wherever, let's assume you're allowed to rent out houses to go, and you are allowed to. But even there's a limitation. What's a limitation? Lo lebeis dira omru. You're allowed to rent it out for them for storage purposes. Yeah, you're allowed to rent out, your storage area in China for Chim Cham Chum to just store his Chinese toys over there, the produce, whatever the product, but not for him to live there. Why can't I have the guy living in my house and he's paying me as a tenant? Why? Because speaking of China or Japan or India or even America, you'll be surprised, yeah. Many times goyim tend to bring avodah zarah into their, dwelling area, and therefore don't rent out the house to a guy if the house belongs to you, because he'll bring in avodah zarah. Again, this is a big shiloh for property people living in Chutz La'aretz. There are solutions for that. We have they're famous. I don't want to say names online, but there's a very, very, very wealthy family in London, and they're very big Balit Tzedakah, and they're very big Talmidei Chachamim. You don't know? Okay. And they have their own, it's an exaggeration, but say they own half of London. They own a lot of property in London, and they rent it out. So let's leave that alone. Of course, there are solutions. However, the question here is glaring. This Kanya, you just told me regarding Chometz, it's not a problem. If I rent it out, or even for free, I gave and designated the goy some area in my house or door, or yeah, a separate place, and that place is considered his, and the Chometz his Chometz, I'm okay to have it there, even if I'm responsible. If you tell me Schirus Kanya by Chometz, Schirus being a tenant is considered soicher as if he, the guy, is the owner, then what's the problem with the Avodah Zarah? Pika me'ayel, what's going to be if the guy puts the getchke, the golden statue of some of the Zarah? So what's going to happen if he puts it in the house? Lebeise denafshe kame'ayel. He's bringing it lebeise. What's denafshe? His own. He's bringing it to his own house, right? Yeah. In other words, when it comes to the Zorah, looks like we don't follow the rule that if the guy is a tenant, a paying renter, then we don't view him as that's his own place. Let him do whatever he wants. Why? What's the difference? And says the Gemara, here's the difference. First wide line. Shiny hacha de apke rachmana bilshon lo imotze mishematzui biyodcho. Yotzo zehe she'en motzo biyodcho, which means lo imotze here comes to be apparently a kula. Lo imotze is sometimes a kula, not always a chumrah, which means the only time a chometz should not is really osir if it's motzu biyodcho, if it's freely, as I would say in English, accessible to you. Yeah? Any chometz that's accessible to me, right? Or I'm in charge of, but that's another story. That chometz should not be found to me, should not be accessible to me. But if Mr. Mackenzie Shlita, if he has a corner, a room, a cupboard in my house where I'm not supposed to go into, the agreement is it's his, right? It's not his completely. So even though it's not really his completely, it's not. It is my room. Let's say he has a room in the corner of my house that is Tim Mackenzie's storage room, right? This is Moshe's room. This is Rochel's room. This is Beryl Schmendel's room. And there's one room in the house for Tim Mackenzie's chometz, right? So even though, what?
Your wife would be happy.
So even though separate entrance, so even though mitzad avodah zarah and mitzad dinei mamonos, of course, belongs to me. I'm the owner. The tabu in Israel means it's written on my name. It's my house, right? And therefore, if he puts in avodah zarah, it's a big problem and should be usher. However, regarding chametz, it's not a problem. Why? Chametz is not just about who owns the house or owns the room. Chametz is about who has accessibility to the room. Since access is denied, if there's an agreement that he's kind of living there or storing there, I can't just go in there whenever I want, do whatever I want. No. Yeah, everybody knows, every child knows that a landlord cannot just barge in, right, to the renter's house, even though it belongs to him. That's the point here.
Kids can't use, your wife can't use, nobody uses, it's not yours.
Oh, it is mine on paper, and I'm the owner. But since the guy, it's reserved for
Right.
him as a person who's actually using it, therefore the chometz there, according to Tosfos, even though I am in charge of it in terms of achrayus, it doesn't matter because the fact that it's not motzeh biyodi overrides the fact that I'm responsible. That's Tosfos. While Rashi and his group of Rishonim, they say no. They say no. This is all very nice to say, Pirush Mirus, that's all very nice if I'm not responsible. According to Rashi, if I am achroy on the chometz, then it is a problem. That's Machlokes Rishonim, which is very good because it's preparing us for the Mishnah Berurah. Of course, the question remains about Rashi. According to Rashi, who cares? Lefi Rashi, and of course the sugi is still shver, and all the Rishonim ask, Lefi Rashi, what does the Gemara say? Why does the Gemara care so much whether I own the room or not? Lamaisa, if I'm not responsible for it, anyhow, it's okay. And if yes, yes. There is an answer. I have an answer, I think, but since it's just my own svara, I'll keep it for the end. I first want to let's get the Gemara, maybe try and do some Mishnah Berurah today, and then maybe I'll tell you my own Chidush Torah Be'ezras Hashem. Amar v'yidom Arav. Oh, here comes the truth. The truth is I'm thinking now. Yeah, no. Let's do a few more lines and then we'll continue to Mishnah Berurah. Amar v'yidom Arav. Second wide line, yeah, Bakiva, yeah, Daf Vav Amud Aleph, second wide line. Amar v'Yehuda Amar Rav. You know, Rav Yehuda was Rav's close Talmud. Rav Yehuda is quoting Rav. Hamaytze chometz bebeisa b'yom tov. Upa, ever happened to you? Upa, pa, pa, pa. You remember that you only found nine pieces of bread in B'dikas chometz, and when did you find number 10? In the middle of Leila Seder. So what do you do then? Atolo. My wife has a heart attack. That's for sure, right? That goes without saying, right? Okay, then yeah. About hamatz chametz beveisa b'yom tov. Seriously now, what would a person do if he finds a piece of chametz in his house on Yom Tov? Yeah, you missed it with all the crazy cleaning. What's the halacha? Koife olav es a kli. You have to take a kli, a plate, a jar, a jug, whatever, and koife cover it with a kli until motzei Yom Tov. Soon we'll explain why. We'll explain why soon, I promise. Let's just finish the line. If that piece of bread belongs to Hekdesh, then you don't have to cover it with a kli. My time. Why shouldn't I cover it? Mivdal b'dili minei. The people of the household in times of Beis Hamikdash, b'meir b'mein yomein, people are naturally, shouldn't say repulsed. People are naturally, distance themselves from Hekdesh. If there's a piece of Hekdesh in the house, every baby in the house knows, oh, don't touch. Hekdesh is a very, very, not supposed to touch Hekdesh because it belongs to Gavoa, belongs to Kadosh Baruch Hu. You don't mess up with that. So people naturally are not going to come and eat it. Oh, which means, if the chometz is regular chometz, right? And now it's Yom Tov. What are your options? First of all, you want to get rid of it very quickly. Why? Let's assume you did bitul chometz, which you did because you are religious. So you did bittul chometz, right? You did bittul chometz, very nice. But midorabanan, still, you having chometz in the house is also midorabanan, even though you did bittul. We are going back to the basics of the sugya, right, from the first day. Now you did the bittul, but now what's the whole reason why you still need to do bdika and burn it? Because you may come to find it and eat it, yeah, or have charota on the bittul, one of the two. Oh, lemaisa, now you find it on Yom Tov. What you should be doing, and this is a piece of chometz, it's not hekdesh. People are not naturally detached from it, even though it's Pesach. Why? Because people throughout the year are used to eating chometz, right? Kosher madrin, it says on the cake, but that's the charedis. Who doesn't want to eat it? It looks delicious, and therefore you want to distance yourself from it. Also, be mikam mitzvahs bi'u. What are the options? What can you do on Yom Tov? Nothing. You can't burn it on Yom Tov because you're not allowed to burn things on Yom Tov. It's not oichel nefesh. Right? And the chiyuv de rabbanon to get rid of it does not override this or the right of burning. No, it doesn't. Now, what's the other thing? Take it. Why not just take it with your own bare hands and throw it to the toilet nowadays, to the gutter, to the street, whatever. Not to the street. Don't make the street dirty. Whatever. To the next building's garbage can. Yeah, whatever. That's not allowed because it's muktzah. What can be more? We're in the middle of the sugi of muktzah, remind you, on Shabbos. What's more inedible than chometz and Pesach, right? Inedible stuff, halachically or technically, is muktzah, right? Raw rice, raw potatoes are muktzah. So to chometz and Pesach. What's the third option? What about mechitza? Remember, we said that even the goyish chometz that's allowed to be in your house, you have to have a mechitza of 10 tefachim. That's not allowed either. Why? Says the Ran. I saw today, Ran, Mishnah Berurah, afterwards, they say, I can't put the mechitza because it's Yom Tov. And if you put the mechitza that's halachic, that's considered to be ohel. Oil arai is not allowed in Yom Tov. So the only solution is what? Take the kli and cover with the kli. Yeah. However, that solution is not 7 days. not durable enough for all 7 days, because as Rashi, people may come to take the kli because they need it. They need the kli. People may remove the kli. So therefore, since we're only talking about a 1 day issue, I don't know, chutzah, it's 2 days in a chinami, since it's temporary solution to just, get it out of my sight, cover it as a no entry sign, I can't burn it, I can't remove it, I can't do a mechitza. Three solutions don't work. The only solution is put a kli that's temporary. Motzei Shabbos, you remove the kli. Motzei Yom Tov, oh, but the same thing would apply to Shabbos Chol Hamoed, by the way. Absolutely the same. You remove it when you can, and then take it. It's not mukta anymore because it is not Yom Tov, not Shabbos. Take it and burn it, burn it, burn it, burn it. Yeah, on Chol Hamoed. Now we're going to see the similar yet different case. The Amar Viuda Amar Rav, the same Amora about a similar case. Chemtzo shel Nochri. Oh, this is talking about the chometz of the Nochri, which is allowed to be in your house officially, formally, and practically for 7 days of Pesach. I think Pesach is 7 days because I'm Israeli. I know you think eight, maybe. Yeah, people at Torah anytime. So the 7/8 of 8 days of Pesach, the chometz of Mr. McKinley is in your house and it's legally so. Tell me, anybody, how can I have a chometz of a guy in my house? Anybody? Because what? What's the condition?
No chayes.
No Christ. No Christ. I told him, listen to him. I'm a nice guy. No Christ. Yeah. So chemtza shel nochri. What about it? Oh, that's Erev Yom Tov. I don't have to get rid of it. I'm allowed to have it in my house because I'm not achroi on it. Oh, since over here we're talking about the chometz which will and should stay in my house for all 7, 8 days, I am not supposed to have it exposed and visible because people may come to eat it by mistake, right? I don't know. The 5 years old doesn't know it belongs to Mackenzie. It has an OU on it, right? Or America, right? Or in Canada, I don't know, C something, CRC, whatever, it's there, yeah. So therefore, people may come to eat it. There to be koifekli to cover with a kli is not going to work because the kli, people are likely to take it off because they need it for some use. You like your nagelwasser thing, you're going to come and take it, right? And therefore, what do? Erev Yom Tov, when you're still allowed to erect a mechitza, you make this mechitza 10 tefachim between the chometz and you, and that's allowed. That's a solution. Or lock it in a cupboard, lock it in a room, like we do for the goy shechametz, right? You have a sign, mocher legoy, right? Yeah. In other words, you have to have some hacker so people don't touch. Now, v'im shel hekdeshu, if same idea, im shel hekdeshu ein tzarich. If the chometz is chometz that belongs to hekdesh, let's say you were makdish a nice kind of I don't know, pasta, macaroni. You makdish at the base of mikdash, right? And yeah, it's in your house for Pesach. You're allowed to have it. Why? Ataroye shel acherim shel gavah. You're allowed to have hekdesh chometz in your house because it's not your chometz. But that hekdesh, maybe people will come to eat that pasta, that whatever, the tortellini, maybe. Ain't a tzarich, no need to do anything. It can be exposed. Why? My time. Once people know it belongs to hekdesh, they automatically are, aloof. They're detached from it. They're not going to eat it. Now, and as I told you yesterday, although it's pas akum, yeah, Mackenzie's bread is pas akum, people are not naturally repulsed, so to speak, by pas akum, because pas akum has many exceptions to the rule. Yeah, pas akum is not as severe as other Isur Torah. It's actually so the Rabbanon, by the way. That's besides the point. Yeah, because pas akum has its exceptions, so people are not. You can't rely, at least, on people to just not eat it because it belongs to the goy. Nicely packaged, it's good, looks nice, looks good. So it's a problem. Um, yes, I would look now in the Mishnah Berurah. Yeah, I have to open now the Oitzer Chochmah. 1 second. Yeah. 1 second. I'll just say, we'll just pause a second this year and we'll continue. Okay, so we're going to see some of the Mishnah Berurah, Shulchan Aruch Mishnah Berurah about a goy chometz in a Jew's house. Tatmem din chametz shel yudi shuvkad etzel Yisrael. Yeah, badal tzifim. Aleph, ein a yudi shivkid chametz etzel Yisrael. A non-Jew that deposited his chametz by a Jew, im chayav b'achrayus migneva v'aveda. Oh, meaning the yid is a shomer socho. If anything, if the chametz gets lost or stolen, yeah. Ben shu bebeisoy, ben shu bechol mokem b'rshusoy, chayv levaro. You heard that? Whether it's in the Jew's house or anywhere in the Jew's reshus, in the Jew's domain, we're going to see the Mishnah Berurah, The Jew is chayv levaroi. Why? Because it lemaisa, the Jew is responsible. It's called motzui, bali motze. It's something that is connected to you. Yeah, either mitzvah double go lemomen or otherwise chayv levaroi. You have to be mevayer before you better obviously inform the goy and tell him, I'm sorry, we have a Jewish holiday. Come take your chometz back. If not, then you'll have to. There are other solutions maybe, or you just pay him. You get rid of it and you pay him. You pay him and you lose for the mitzvah. ואפילו זוק דרמו, ואפילו חוזר והפקידו ביד אין יהודי אחר. Oh, even if you deposited the chometz of one goy by another goy, it won't help. It still doesn't help. Yeah, we may see that too in the Mishnah Berurah. ויש אומרים, says the Mechaber, שאפילו אין עולב לשומר חינם שחי בפשיר חייב לבערוי. Oh, as I told you, here's an issue. Apparently, some of the Rishonim, yeah, the Bahag, the Rosh, they believe that even if the Jew is not fully responsible, yeah, is not responsible for Gneva Vaveda, only Bepshia, Shemachinam. In other words, he's telling him, I'm not responsible for if somebody, somebody comes and steals or gets lost, in a way that's kind of out of my control. Only if I'm mamish poshea, only if I'm negligent, mamish, then I'm chayiv to pay. That's shomachinam, right? Listen, Mackenzie, don't pay me anything, and my level of shmira is the lowest level. What is that? I'm chinam. If I'm mamish negligent, what does it mean? I left my house open, unlocked, and ganovim came. Then it's my fault. Only then I have to pay. So my level of connection financially is much less. Still, according to some Rishonim, they say chayv levaroi. Even then, I'm responsible enough to be considered as bali motze, and I have to get rid of that chometz. Vafilu. Oh, here comes another shaila. That's very interesting. Vafilu im einu chayv b'achrayusoi bedin, ela sheyodea she'einu yudi alam v'yichaper l'shalem im yaben chayv levaroi. Let me explain. What happens if halachically or legally? By the way, many Rishonim believe, as we saw in the story of Rova and the soldiers, that even if the government forces me to pay against Din Torah, the government says, you Jew, this is in your house. If anything happens to the chosh of the soldiers, chometz, you have to pay. I didn't accept it. Nobody's asking me. Then I'm considered to be what? Considered to be chayiv, and I have to get rid of it, and I'll pay. Now, this is a different case. This is a case in which there's a goy whom I did not take responsibility, and either by halacha nor by law lahavdil, I don't have to pay him if anything happens. But that goy is an alam. What's alim? Alim in Hebrew? Violent. Yeah. So let's say that goy he has good friends everywhere, and he knows where you live. And next time, if you don't bring him his chometz nice, or you don't pay him for it, you know what's going to happen? Your wife's going to turn on the ignition key, and the car's going to blow up. That kind of guy. Is going to put a bum under your bed. Yeah. The kitzer, he'll force you to pay. He'll force you to pay, even though it's illegal. But the metzias, the sad reality is that's a violent person, that's an aggressive person. And if anything happens, I know that against law or halacha, I have to pay. And his best friend of this guy is the head of the police. Yeah. Thank you. Then what? Chayv levaroi. I have to pay, and therefore I have to be mevayer the chometz. You have to pay him. Now, unless it's a konas nefashos, of course, my stories were a little bit too exaggerated. It's a konas nefashos, not only have to be mevayer, you have to find a solution. But the ma'aseh me'ikar din, you're over bali motze if this chometz is in your house, because at the end of the day, you have to pay. In reality, there's chalkim. Some Rishonim argue on that. Yeah. Some Rishonim argue. The Rambam doesn't hold that way. He says if it's not legally chiyuv for me to pay, right, then yesh chalkim. Now, I don't want to go to the Mishnah Berurah because first I want to go to the next piece of the Shulchan Aruch, okay? And then we'll go a little bit more into some highlighted Mishnah Berurahs. Because Chelik base, Sieve base is something we also dealt with for a long time. Oh, let's say I'm not responsible, not accountable for anything that happens to the Goy's Chometz. I don't have to be mevayer it, nothing to do with me. I'm not responsible, not accountable. Yeah, the chometz is his, the house is mine, there's no shidduch. Afilim kovush tachas yodoi. Oh, here is the topic we discussed at length. Even if the guy is under my hand, what does it mean under my hand? Oh, let's say the guy is a guy that's allowed to live in Eretz Yisrael, and he abides by the laws of the Torah, It doesn't mean he's a complete ger. He keeps the Sheva mitzvahs b'nei Noach. That's a definition of a ger toishov. Ayin rit v'makis naftes. Very interesting whole story over there. A ger toishov is the guy that officially accepted, yeah, to be mekam Sheva mitzvahs b'nei Noach. We allow him to live in Eretz Yisrael. Otherwise, goyim are not allowed to live in Eretz Yisrael halachically. But he's ger toishov. But he accepts our rules. He's under us, happily so. He knows that the Jews are the chosen nation, and he's living under our authority. The Shalom of Bechotzer, and he's even living with me at the same courtyard, the same quarters. So then, even so, even though the guy is under me, it's my maid, it's my slave, it's my thing. Ger Toishov is living with us. Still, as long as the chometz is his, and I'm not responsible for his chometz, then it is okay. By the way, a live-in maid, as we'll see later, there could be a bigger problem because it could be marisain. If the goyish maid has her chometz, people may think it's your chometz. That could be an issue. Yeah. So they will discuss it later. Okay. Now, v'tzorich lasas lefoda mechitza gavasa tfachim. Oh, we just saw it now. You can have the goyish chometz in your house if you're not responsible, but please make a mechitza v'asa tfachim. Why? 10 tfachim high. Yeah. Why? Kadesh lo yishkach v'yochlenu. Before everything nice. Shulchan Aruch. You should not forget and come to take a match, take a bit of whiskey.
Would that the machitza also help against Marseille?
The mechitza, if the goyish maid lets eat it only in her room. I don't know. We'll see it in Mishnah Berurah. I'm not sure. Very good point to be discussed. Says the Ramo, the any yudi sheniach chometz bebeis Yisrael beloy reshusoi. Yeah, a goy placed the chometz in Beis Yisrael without the permission of the yid. Koifel of kli. The yid should cover it with a kli. V'davka b'yom tov. Avlam kodim yom tov tzorich lasos mechitza. As we said on Yom Tov, you cannot erect the mechitza because it's boina midorabonon. Yeah, it's oil arai for halacha. Oil arai is okay if you do a mechitzas oil arai. The top is forbidden, the side is allowed unless it's halachically important. Yeah, you can't make a mechitza between your wife and you and the light or the sforim when you do the mitzvah because that's halachic. So it's a significant wall. So even though it's only arai, it's only 7 days, it's still a problem. And therefore here too, don't make the mechitza between the chometz and you. Okay? So what do? Koifekli. What do you do with Motzei Shabbos? Then you make the mechitza. Gimel. Let's just continue to the third one, and hopefully tomorrow we'll see Mishnah Berurah. This is a different case. He did not deposit it in my house. This is a plumber, electrician. You have no choice. You have to call them in Chol. There is something that happened. First time, a neighbor, some people in Chutzatz have goyish neighbors that they're friendly with, whatever. The guy comes into your house with a sandwich in his bag, whatever, in his mouth, and you're about to faint, or your wife, yeah, what do? No, don't take out the chometz, don't take out the guy. Even though the yid is roye, and he may say, Bali roye, right? Bali roye, Bali motze. I can see the chometz of the guy, ein bekach klum. It's nothing. What does it mean nothing? What does it mean nothing? Not only it's allowed, neither you have to take him out, nor do you have to build a mechitza. Here you don't have to build a mechitza. Why? Because the guy is there. You're not going to, by mistake, basic halacha and basic tact will tell you not to take from the guy's chometz, right? The plumber, the electrician, the doctor, whoever came with his bag of food. You're not going to take it from his bag of food. He's mishama. He keeps it. It's his, clearly. And therefore, in such a case, you don't have to build a mechitza. Just let him stay there with the chometz. Aval, osur la'alos imelo shulchan va'afilu be'efsek mapa. You're not allowed to have the guy. The guy says, "Okay, I want to have lunch with you. That's your religion, and that's mine. Let's be all nice and multicultural." He's going to have his sandwich, yeah, and you're going to have your matzah shmura mehadrin on the same table. So, besides the fact you have already divorced you 10 times, if you even entertain such an idea, but leave that alone. Even besides that, but you're not allowed to do it halachically. What does that mean? Usually, if you have another person eating meat and you eat milk, there is a solution. Placemat, right? Allowed to have hefsek mappa, different tablecloth, some kind of anchor. Here it's not going to help. Says the Mishnah Berurah that we'll see later. As we all know, chometz, even one crumb is a problem. You're very scared. The one crumb from his sandwich, his burekas, his pizza may roll into your food. And that's terrible because you don't want to have one crumb of chometz even on Pesach, and therefore hefsek mappa is not going to help. However, the Mishnah Berurah says you are allowed to tell the guy to eat on his own and make sure it's very, very clean afterwards. It can happen by goy. Sometimes you can have a guy coming for the Seder night to look after an elderly person. Let's say the guy wants to have his own chometz, separate table. You can have it in a separate table, and you just clean the table very well. Of course, no woman would agree to that, but women have many disagreements with Shulchan Aruch, but lechumra. But meikar din, you're allowed to the woman machmir noshim ksheros baruch Hashem. But you're allowed to have meikar din. Yes, you're allowed to tell the guy have your chometz here, and you're going to clean very very well after he goes home. Daled. Yisrael shivkid chametz tzad Yisrael chaveiroi. That's interesting. Israel with Israel. We didn't yet discuss that. Israel deposited by different Israel. Yeah, they're both from Jews. Chaveiroi. Or etzel einu Yehudi. In other words, now it's the other way around. It's now my chometz. All the time we spoke about me. Let's say I'm the balabais. And Mackenzie, McKinley, Abdul Rahman, whoever, they put their chometz in my domain. That was the issue. What about the other way around? I have chometz that's deposited a month before Pesach. I deposited all the whiskey. The guy's trying to work on his drinking problems. He says, okay, the whiskey should be in my friend's house, and he's deposited over there. And Pesach comes, yeah. Then what? Let's say the goy or the yid that are looking after my chometz, and they have a chrayas, right? Over all of af hamafkid, stress the af hamafkid, which means the fact that they have a problem, the yid. Let's say I'm Reuven and I put my whiskey by Shimon, right? Shimon accepted the responsibility, so Shimon has a problem. It's not only between a goy and a yid, also a yid and a yid. If Shimon accepts responsibility for Reuven's whiskey, which is in his house of Shimon, he's a shomer or socher chinam, he is responsible. He's the overballer balimotze. But does that mean that I'm off the hook? No. Afa mafkid, which means, in other words, even though we say that if it's in the shomer's house, the shomer is responsible, is over, that does not exclude the real owner. Who's the real owner of the bottle of whiskey? Who bought that expensive Johnny Walker whiskey, scotch? I did, yeah? And it's mine. It's deposited by him. The fact he is the shomer, it's also mechayiv him. But it doesn't exclude me. I'm also the owner. And therefore, I'm also chayiv. Both are chayiv. Both are chayiv. ביטל מה? המפקיד עשה ביטול חומץ. כולו די helps, לכן בסדר. That could be a solution. Very good. The לכאורה, he should do ביטול חומץ. You mean does he have to have the achrayus or deal? That's what you're asking. Still for sure he has to do. You may be asking, does the guy who have a chometz in someone else's house, does he have to also make sure it's mevuar by the other guy? Or is it enough that he did bitul? Yeah? That can be a good question. So there's no cries because it's after the ara. I hear. But still, there's a problem. Somebody has to do beer because bitul alone doesn't help, that's for sure. Somebody has to do beer. Bitul alone doesn't help, even in my own house. So somebody has to do beer. The question is, I hear your question, I think. How would you define who has the bigger chiyuv beer? The real owner or the nifka? Okay, that's something interesting to discuss tomorrow. Tomorrow, guys, is Wednesday. Wednesday, tomorrow, it's Hashem. You're all going to be here, right? Because I'm going to be here, hopefully. Yeah, still, yeah. Don't have to clean for Pesach that early. So basically, tomorrow we'll start with Mishnah Berurah. Not the whole thing, but we'll see some interesting highlights of Mishnah Berurah to do the sugya. And then we'll continue to the next sugya, which is super fascinating. What happens if a person knows he's not going to be home for Pesach? Does he still have to do bir chometz? Interesting sugya. Hatzlacha v'bracha. Thank you so much to everybody on Torah Anytime. Everybody who works there. Everybody who is, into the shir. Baruch Hashem, we have a lot of following now. Baruch Hashem. Thank you for everybody who comes here. Me'an lo'ez Ramat Bet Shemesh. Same neighborhood as a Daf Yomi. Yeah. Hatzlacha v'bracha. Thank you. May we have a very kosher Pesach to us and to all of Klal Yisrael.